Shib Army. Thank you so much for being here with us today in Studio Shib. My name is Shib Ryder, and this is my other half,
Shiba Zam. And we're happy and so enthused to have Shib, the Metaverse team, here with us.
Yes. Why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Marcie Jastrow, working alongside Sherry Kuno on the use case for the Metaverse and building it out.
I'm a technical advisor for Shib the Metaverse.
I'm David Kern. I'm sort of playing the role of creative director and technical director of the whole 3D pipeline.
And I'm Brandy Quinn-Posick. I'm the producer for Shib the Metaverse.
Oh, we're so excited to have you all here. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. But yes,
There's so many questions we would like to ask, but particularly I think where I would like to start is, so what then your specific roles that you're in charge of, and on a daily basis, how does that kind of work within your schedules?
I'm just going to start by saying I've known Marcie for quite a long time. We've worked on projects that are incredible projects in the past. And so when we were presented with advising on Shib the Metaverse, I immediately thought of Marcie because she has, the experience, the catalog of resources, etc. So I called her up and we are where we're at now. For me, as an advisor, my role is to make sure that the technology that is utilized is both that which will support us long term, and that which will allow for the tools to be developed on and allow for the ultimate goals of making the metaverse a place where people can make money. And so, that's very challenging, but I think we have the right team, and that's important in my advisory role, is to make sure we have the right resources on board, and also to make sure that the plan of action is that which is short-term and long-term.
Nice.
Go ahead, Marcie, or anybody else?
So I think that, so I've been around entertainment and media for a long time. Most recently, when I was at Technicolor the last 5 years, I worked with David, where we built something called the Technicolor Experience Center. And the whole concept of that was to, number one, build new pipelines with traditional pipelines, so taking new game engine technology and fusing it together with what was traditional animation technology, and seeing if we could build a team that would be able to actually scale for Technicolor, for immersive media. When I say immersive media, I say VR, AR, so virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality. So that's how David is here today, because David was actually the creative director and the technical animation pipeline director for us at Technicolor, and focusing on that pipeline in India. When Sherry asked me to come aboard this project, it was quite interesting because for me, I've spoken about metaverses, but in my opinion, I didn't really feel like there was, except for, the Robloxes that have been around for 10 to 12 years and the Fortnites that's been around, that's had time to really build their community. Building a metaverse without a community does you no good, because you need people to come. Yeah. So when Sherry started talking about this potential project, it correlated to a keynote that I had given in regards to community, and why community was so important. So obviously, when Sherry told me about the Shiba Inu community, and I started doing some digging, I felt like it was a great use case to bring a team together to build what we could in the way of studios and business cases, and try to build a vibrant community. Now, here's the thing. What I would say in regards to people making money in the metaverse and how is that going to be, we've said it a lot, we're building the plane as we're flying. Not every idea is going to work. Not every situation is going to scale. But the idea is to take many use cases when we get to our MVP and start looking at how we can effectively build a vibrant ecosystem and e-commerce inside the metaverse. My primary role is to look at partnerships, is to do the deals with the studios, and to hire any sort of resources we might need outside the technical resources, because I don't get too involved in the technical part. That's why Sherry is there, and David, honestly. And then I work with Brandy on a daily basis. But I think your main question was, what does your normal day look like? How do you communicate?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So essentially, how do we communicate? We communicate through Telegram. That is the preferred method. We are all remote. We have a team in India as well. And we have a team in Vancouver as well. And then we also confirm with the third floor still. But ultimately, we brought Brandy in, and Brandy can tell you a little bit about her background to really manage the day-to-day activities on the budget, what's going on, when are we doing reviews, things like that. And I'm going to let Brandy now jump in and explain that, and then we'll go to David.
And as luck would have it, a truck just went really loudly by. It's the beauty of working remotely. It's a gift and a curse. But yes, as Marcie had said, I actually met her about 7, maybe 8 years ago now, during the Experience Center getting set up. And my history was always really feature films. There was on-set. Most of my credit list really comes from the post-production side. And I toe dipped into the Experience Center with one of their early adoptions. So got a little bit of that from Marcie, and then whenever I went over to Netflix, COVID hit, and the feature film space and television, everything got hit so hard because productions shut down. And people didn't realize that productions may have shut down, but that just meant that post-production went into overdrive. So we were given 48 hours to get people back to work, finish, if something was filmed, how do we get that to the screen for people so that we can continue to drop things? And as anyone who's watched Netflix knows, that there's something new once or twice a week. So it's a lot of content dropping all of the time. And Marcie, thank God for the relationship I had with Marcie, because she really came in and saved the day and offered us a solution to keep working in the least painful way possible, so that COVID, while it affected all of us, we were able to continue to put content out for people. And so after leaving Netflix, Marcie came and approached me about this project, and it was unlike anything I'd ever experienced before. A lot of my credit list is with a lot of really big studios, and I'm used to having maybe 2 or 3 people with a vision, director, studio, maybe a producer that had their own vision for it, and there was always one final say that got us to the finish line. And this was such an interesting experience because I didn't really know what decentralization meant. And as we go down the rabbit hole of decentralization, it's amazing how the voices are so equal. And I'm truly enjoying it, because you're always told in this industry, you're only as good as your last project. And the foundation of the metaverse is being built so smart, so strategic, that it is giving it so much room for advancement for decades, if not longer. And so if you're only as good as your last project, then thank God Marcie gave me that call, because this is a really fun project to be on, and having so many voices in the room really means that you get to be as creative as possible, and you're not pigeonholed to one final say.
Now, are you writing things down so you could actually pitch a script to Netflix in regards to what's going on right now?
Oh yeah, Sherry and I are writing a book. We're doing a documentary. We're doing a movie. Like, you can't make this shit up. I mean, it's unbelielievable.
I love it. That's
We're not
fantastic.
even involved in anything. We're just community members. And the day after, there's over like 200 messages, and we're like, what just happened? and then the funniest of things, I go in to the space, and I'm not gonna mention. It is just a funny anecdote. I go in because I'm trying to be a pacifist, like we've always been. So I go in without reading anything. Oh, I support everyone. And all of a sudden I get a message. Hey, bud, I don't think it works that way at this point. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? Because I didn't want to lose anything. So I'm like, I go all the way to the top, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is major for Netflix right here. You can't make the script up.
I always joke with everyone here. The moment I went on to Shib, I started seeing my name in different headlines with different crypto, and I became more and more important with every headline that came out. And I was laughing with the team. I was like, I always felt like I worked really hard in my career, but all of a sudden I'm way up here based on
It's just so crazy.
Awesome.
But sorry, David. It was just so funny when she mentioned Netflix. I'm like, I am sure they're already thinking about all this going on.
Oh yeah.
Well, as you heard, I worked with Marcie previously at the Technicolor Experience Center. I actually first met Marcie because I was living in India at the Technicolor, near the Technicolor studios in Bangalore, and I was there for 3 years. But Marcie came to visit at one point, and that's where I met her. And I was at the time sort of forming a technical team there that was supporting tools in the studio. And so then the idea was proposed that let's start a VR team. So I started a team there, and then eventually I came back to Los Angeles, and I was working here in Culver City with Marcie. And then, we were able to produce a couple of different really cool VR experiences, Mars and Awabana, and one called Mono, which I don't think that many people saw that, but it was a comic, one of those graphic comics.
Oh,
so it was pretty cool. Had some mini games in it and things. So it was just fun, being on the cusp of VR, saying, okay, this is what you can do with this, is make these experiences. So when Marcie asked me to join this Shib the Metaverse, which I admit at first she had to talk me into it.
I was going to say.
Shiba Inu coin, what is this? What are we doing here? But
I think the biggest problem was when he realized that he was like working for people he or me. I think that was his biggest concern.
I thought he would have gone the other way. Well, we couldn't get Bitcoin? Just kidding.
But anyway, the way I look at this is it's kind of a build it and they will come. Kind of like, I'm pushing us to build sort of the next generation of metaverses. Like it needs to look better, and you need to be able to do more things. And so we're kind of setting ourselves up for a long term of having a really beautiful avatar, being able to create games, being able to, we get back to that marketplace discussion quite often. And it's difficult to nail down exactly how every single person can make money, but I'm hoping we are, we're entering a world where creative people can. And so we talk about something like clothing, that somebody could design some digital clothing, start selling that for your avatar, and if it becomes popular, then you start making a real thing that you can sell for home, And I just see that as being able to foster this whole new generation of little fashion designers and 3D modelers making cool stuff, and people who want to spend time making games. I mean, make no mistake, making games is hard, and it takes creative time to do it. So when we give you the tools to make a game, it's not just going to be, I press 2 buttons and it works. You'll have to spend some time doing it. And say, that's my game. And it's like, well, to really set it up, we'll give you the tools, but if you're creative, then you might have something to sell or have people to join in with. So that's the way I'm approaching it. It's really difficult working with a worldwide team. It's fun, but we're on the phone a lot. I'm up at 6 a.m. to be on the phone with India. Couple of studios over there, and then the meetings continue on this side of the world, and then sometimes in the evenings I hop on again with India. So it's a long day, and it's always difficult to work remotely because, it's different than an office, like where you can walk around and see what each person is doing and stay on top of it. So communicating back to even this production team here is critical. It's like, okay, so I've had a meeting, but they weren't there, so I got to communicate back what's going on and who's working on what, and we're trying to build out the schedules, and it's a big project. So
Yeah,
we have a lot to do.
I will say David's a trooper. I'm responsible for probably at least 7 of his meetings a day. Constantly sending him an apology.
Sorry, David.
I could only.
Yeah, but we've got some really talented people working on this project. There's no doubt, and there's people working on this project which have worked on many of the very popular video games of the day. And some of those folks are unknown. Some people, like when we work with the studios in India, a lot of those people have had their fingers in Hollywood movies and things that people don't realize that they're the artists behind this. So they're great artists. And so we're going to put together some really cool stuff for this metaverse.
Since you're the technical, the one that's working with all the technicals, especially I'm assuming, Unreal and all that. I've been trying to learn the last year because I like learning things on my own. And I went into Unreal 5.1, and mind you, I'm pretty good at learning pretty much anything I want. That's no joke. I mean, I have a bachelor's in information and computer science. I have a master's in I have all this education. And when I went in, just trying it out on my own, I'm like, wow. But I also saw that potential, as you mentioned, if I learned it, and if I could create couches for the metaverse or shirts or whatever it may be, then... which brings my next question. Now, say hypothetically, now this is built, and I know how to make certain assets. How is that process going to work? Because I'm assuming for security purposes, there's going to be some sort of way of either bringing it in, or I don't know how would something like that work. Say I'm a house builder or something.
So first of all, we're going to provide a plot builder. So the plot builder will work from a whole bunch of prefabricated parts, and eventually I would like to be able to say then, okay, well, this is the spec for the parts to build your very own unique structure, so then you can upload parts for it. Uploading just any old model, okay, that's just kind of what you're saying. So yes, we do have to have a process in place where somebody, probably a human, at least looks at it once. Because we don't want some certain types of models getting in there. But eventually I see this as an AI thing. It's like an AI can look at an object and kind of figure out what it is and do an analysis and say, yes, this is good. That's way down the line though. So for now, we're kind of thinking there's going to be a human gatekeeper that says, okay, here's somebody who has a bunch of models or whatever they want to sell. Go look at them, approve them, and put them in.
Okay.
To add to that, David, there's a whole series of processes that go into this, right? You have to do authentication that the product is theirs and it's not a ripoff of somebody else's intellectual property. So
that's the most difficult one.
That is very difficult, and that is very time consuming. We're not the only metaverse or tech company that's dealing with this type of issue. So that's one element. The other is the aesthetic quality that we want to maintain in the metaverse. Yeah. So it's going to be, does it meet certain specifications as far as quality? Now, that's not necessarily for us to judge what is beautiful and what is not as beautiful, but there are going to be some guidelines to the quality aspect that we bring in, right? We don't want somebody to just upload a block and then that's okay, right? Although maybe somebody wants to buy a block. I don't know. That's again not
or a poorly constructed.
Some level, yeah, we have to have some level of quality control, so the metaverse doesn't end up being, lucky. Yes, and so this is also a process. It's also about making sure that the back end of the system is able to filter the amount of content that may come in to the metaverse, right? So we don't want it to be this endless pit of, having to look for content and your content is always at the bottom. So it's, those types of challenges that we're faced with that we have to think about from both a technical standpoint and from a business standpoint.
A lot. There's so much to consider something like this.
It is quite a bit that has to be considered.
Now, in terms of, and I know this question is it's kind of in the minds of a lot of metaverses, or a lot of people that want to be a part of the metaverse. But do you see down the line metaverses being able to communicate with each other? Meaning, like, where I could be in the sandbox and all of a sudden I travel over to Shib the metaverse and all that. Is that something that you see, aligning in the future?
Marcie's like, yes.
It's a very, very difficult problem.
Languages?
I mean, to start with, let's say you want to bring your avatar. So my avatar is set up in our world with a certain way, with a certain skeleton, with certain textures, and all that stuff. So whether or not somebody else's metaverse is going to take that, along with all the animations that I need to drive that character, or maybe they have, some limit that says, okay, in our world we only have one walk cycle that everybody uses. That means in that case, I can't use the one I want, and I end up with whatever's there, and that might not quite match my skeleton correctly. So it's a difficult problem. I think just in the sense of jumping from world to world, if I had an avatar in each world, then that would make more sense to me. It's like I leave my avatar from this world. This is the avatar I use in this world. I go to another world. This is the avatar I use here.
That makes more sense.
I might have tried to make them look identical, but it might not be the same model.
Okay.
Bringing assets around, again, same problem. It's a matter of what they support. So I see that as maybe something in the future, or maybe there's certain networks of metaverses that are linked and certain ones that aren't. But I think it remains to be seen.
So
difficult problem.
The only reason why
And the good news is that there's not like a bunch of metaverses, right? And so there are metaverses that are working together to try and figure out what those specifications are, so what those specs are. And as we move forward into our metaverse, again, why is our metaverse different from other metaverses? We have a built-in audience, right? And so if we say to one of the other metaverses out there, look, we want to buy land in your metaverse, and we want our people to have a portal to be able to go back and forth, of course they're going to want to do that because it means more bodies, right? More eyeballs. Metaverse is all about eyeballs. And it's all about getting as many eyeballs inside those metaverses as possible.
I see. And so the only reason why I asked that previous question is that I was reading an article from from NVIDIA, that they wanted to, basically work on some sort of a standardization per se, so that it could actually be, worked and put in place for metaverses to adopt. And I wasn't sure if that was just talks that we hear, or if you guys had been able to read some of these things and how feasible, that was down the line. So that was one of the questions actually presented by one of our, people that view our content. But it was an interesting question that I actually wanted to ask.
Active in the community, the tech space for this initiative, the Open Metaverse initiative. And so we're talking to, the NVIDIAs and their metaverse providers, to make sure that we're all in alignment. So we're very keen to that, and keep an eye on things as we make announcements in the future, and we'll continue to proceed that level.
Got it. That's
All
good.
right. So, if we wanted to build some kind of special bookstore
In the metaverse?
in Shib the Metaverse, how would we start? What would we need?
So I guess in a way, we're not asking for a step-by-step, but we get this question all the time. They always ask us in Spanish and in English, so we're going to do it in both. I'm not saying we are going to speak in both. I'll explain it to them in Spanish. But they always ask us, okay, we're starting to understand the metaverse. Say as we have our little bookstore or a book channel, and we want to actually sell our stories, our books. How do we go about? Like, say we have a building already physically here, and we're selling books. How does that translate into a business model in the metaverse? And how do I go about doing something like that if this was already in play?
You want me to take that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I want you to think of this as right now you are living in a 2D world. your entire world is encompassing 2D. We're sitting on a Discord, that's 2D. Twitter Spaces is 2D. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to buy a plot of land. And in that plot of land, that plot of land is going to be a 3D plot of land. Now, just like you constructed an in real life bookstore, let's just say, you would construct a virtual storefront and place to put all of your inventory. And once that is constructed, you need to do the same thing to drive awareness, and you advertise. And you say, I have all this inventory, and now I want to advertise to all of these people inside the metaverse, and I want to drive traffic to my storefront, right?
Yes.
So just like now, the tools within a metaverse aren't all there, so we have to build them. And the mechanism to get people to see your store versus the guy down the street is another thing that we need to build. But ultimately, if you look at the way that your websites look now and everything that you do right now, it is a 2D world. We are creating a 3D world where avatars will be able to go in and look at your books, interact with people, just like you would in real life, and then be able to actually purchase whatever that inventory is right there. But again, we are building the plane as we are flying. So we want to make sure that all of these business models, because there's thousands of business models. Like, can you imagine if you are literally taking a digital double of what real life would be and tapping it into what we believe it's going to be. We can design it and do the technology behind it, but ultimately, at the end of the day, every business model that is happening in real life is going to have to be created for the metaverse.
Okay, so let's say I'm just an average person out there, but I have this really good idea. Who or where would I even go to even start to build something myself, or are there going to be resources, people, software? Where would we begin?
That's a question that we get all the time, by the way.
So for our world, if you want to open a store, you need a plot of land. So you purchase your land. It's, in a way, you're kind of like saying, this is my website. It's my three-dimensional spot in the world. And then you have access to our builder tools, which then allow you to construct a building and then start filling it with a representation of book. And it's an interesting question because, eventually in your bookstore, the way I see a metaverse is with your avatar, you could do a book reading, so to speak,
Yes,
and have your character being, reading the book or whatever, or taking books and making them work in a 3D way. It's not just a book anymore. It's like now you're telling a story and something happens in 3D. You get creative people who are, illustrating things, from your book in 3D. And so you have a reading and these, for kids or something, the characters are appearing and doing things. I think it opens new doors.
Yeah, I was thinking of doing something where the book, like you said, it comes to life, it's interactive, and then people can choose a different door, a different page that they want to go to and create their own stories that way. I think that would be kind of cool.
You could also have tools where you take your characters and someone then takes your characters and creates their own book.
Yes.
So you see how it could just snowball into multiple things. So if we were to think about that every single day, we would probably all go crawl in the corner in the fetal position, right? So we have to have an MVP that ultimately allows the people inside the metaverse to build on top of what we're building.
Got it. So for example, NFTs, this would be, I'm assuming, even better, especially when you have the metaverse built. So for example, say an idea. We want to make toys. These toys, physical toys, will have an NFC chip. That NFC chip could then maybe link to, your Metaverse storefront, which can then display that same book, like read it out to you, or maybe a prize or something, some utility can be found that way, or even just a way of purchasing that said toy with the book, bubble wrapped and sent over to said user. So like a point of sale system would be obviously implemented one way or another. How hard would that be for someone like us if we have our land, we have our building, and now we're ready to transact? Is that I'm assuming, yeah, of course it has to be an additional step, but that would be another tools that would be provided within the metaverse, right, for that to happen?
Yes, that would be provided, and then all the NFTs stuff is basically everybody has to have a wallet, basically, to interact with your stuff and for you to be able to post stuff.
So interesting. So the NFTs with your own brand and branding outside of it. I mean, all this is at some point just going to be all in one. So for a user that's outside that, clicks on a link, and wants to see your storefront in the metaverse, how is that going to work? Especially because, and I know the answer, I'm just presenting as a question for those that don't. They click on a link because this is my plot in the metaverse. I don't even know if that's even possible, because I don't know if there's a link that could actually directly take you there. But I'm just asking because that's a question. Is that a possibility where someone can click on a link and it takes you to your storefront in the metaverse? And if so, without having the glasses or anything like that, would they even be able to see anything? And just a general question.
That's called deep linking. And so deep linking is smart enough to know, all the details of where to go within that metaverse.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Okay, so yeah, that was one of those that even myself, I had to look and do a little bit of research because I wasn't certain how that would even work. So like for marketing purposes, This would be like your link per se that you push out in the World Wide Web so that they get to find your location. Okay, that makes sense.
Right, and it doesn't have to be VR. It'll be a PC or a phone.
Oh, okay.
That's awesome. So I know we talked about marketing, and I hear about people being able to put up billboards in the metaverse. Are you guys gonna have how would you do that, and how would you control how many billboards are out there?
So I'll take this real quick. So we don't want it to be a messy metaverse.
Yeah, exactly.
Where you feel like you're being advertised to every second of the day. Like, it's super interesting when you go into Twitter or Discord and you're scrolling along and all of a sudden you get hit with an advertising and it totally takes you out. So now I want you to imagine you're an avatar and you're immersed in this experience, and then all of a sudden you just have all these ads coming at you.
Exactly.
So what we need to do is be really methodical about what that might look like, and it's probably a new business model that we're going to have to create. But ultimately, if I have a plot of land and I want to throw a billboard on that plot of land, I then lease that billboard to people within the metaverse, right? And they, using the specifications that you give them for that billboard, will then build the advertising based on what you want. So ultimately, billboards are, yes, a thing, and but they may not look and feel the same way that you imagine a billboard today.
Mm-hmm.
Or they may, and on the MVP, we don't know quite yet.
Okay. Yeah, because I just imagine going into one of the hubs like WagMe, where it's supposed to be nice and serene, and then I'm just inundated with all of this stuff, and I'm like, wait, this is not the experience that I wanted.
The other thing that I want to say is part of how we're going to make this metaverse extremely vibrant is not with the advertising and not just with the users coming in and creating. It's our responsibility to build programming into the metaverse. So, for example, you need a reason to come back. I mean, they're not going to just come back for any other reason except for if it's interesting and dynamic. So why do you go back to Netflix? Why do you go back to Amazon? Why do you go back to all of these different businesses that you like very much? Well, it's because of the way they program things. So imagine now you're a TV station like you guys, right? And what do you do all day is you program content so that you get people to come to your TV station. The metaverse is going to be exactly like that. Well, you have the people on the outside building their plots and building their ideas and building their e-commerce sites. You still are going to have inside the hubs a steady flow of programming so that people come in. And so that's what I think I want to say to the people out there. If you are a person who is in health and wellness and you want to do something in the metaverse, well, I'm going to say the dirty word, fill out an intake form and let us really understand what it is you want to do, right? Because the intake form is actually super important because there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people who have ideas. And so we have to distill it down and for the MVP decide what are the best ones. But think about it just at a very low hanging fruit level. If you are a yoga instructor and you want to do yoga inside WAGMI at 9 a.m. every Wednesday, that is just another avenue for you to have another channel in which you are doing your business.
Nice. See? I mean, you could do anything. I mean, honestly, the way I see it, this is uncharted. It's like starting new. Like
Yes.
nothing's been sold or nothing's honestly, well, there's whatever you guys are
Land,
building.
yeah.
But it's truly, if you start thinking about what you could possibly do there, I mean, it's almost endless. Like, you know, Tina and I keep thinking about, well, when are we at this? When are we at that? Well, can that be achieved? Can that be done? It's crazy.
Did you guys buy land?
Yeah, so I do have a plot now. Mind you, I did lose one way back when, but we want to buy more, and in specific because of what we want to do. So yeah, absolutely.
So where is your plot of land?
So it's in the, let's see, it was in the not the WAGMI. What's the other
Not
one?
WAGMI. Was it
Tech Trench.
I think it's Tech Trench.
There we go. Sorry, I blanked out for a little bit. But I want something more like where all the businesses per se are going to be. I'm assuming there's like a section where it's like, I don't know, downtown area or business area or some shopping mall area or something like so that. I was thinking of maybe getting a land somewhere around that or where venues such as maybe music events or something, you know, in the likes. But so that's why I've been kind of thinking, I'm like, I think we should probably go into either WAGMI. Oh no, that WAGMI's a little more
Serene.
serene.
Chill.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah,
Very
we'll get to wait and figure that one out.
I mean, I think that as we build up the hubs, and Sherry and David can, you know, concur, and Brandy as well, each hub is going to have commerce. Each hub is going to have buildings.
Oh,
Each
okay.
hub, it's just what the focus of that hub is what you, and by the way, you can go to any hub. Just because you own land somewhere, you can still go to another hub or you can go to someone else's land. We're not locking you out into your just specific area or territory. Maybe there's a passport that allows you to test. And let's say you bought in Tech Trench, and let's say what you're doing is teaching people, because Tech Trench is about teaching. It's about, you know, doing tutorials. So think of it as, you know, coaching and teaching and education. So think of YouTube for Google. And the only way that I can describe things is when I take real world life experiences today. But ultimately, maybe you're in Tech Trench and you decide, you know what, you're not getting enough viewers there and you're not able to drive the traffic. So maybe you get a passport to install for a couple of weeks in another hub. And that passport allows you to then transfer whatever it is you're doing. Again, I'm riffing here and making things up, but these are things that I'm looking at as business models. I was looking at our business models over the weekend. And Sherry and I have a list probably as long as my entire body. And so, again, I think what we should do is really talk about when, again, without dates, because we don't know. But really what an MVP might look like. Because ultimately, we really need to be making it smaller, making the use cases more obtainable, and really just starting with a few select use cases rather than trying to boil the ocean.
That's true. Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah, and what Marcie was saying about transportability between hubs. So every hub also has leasable land within it. So there'll be space that, for example, maybe we can set up like a farmer's market on a Saturday. And so a group of people come in.
Great idea, David.
They lease a spot for a book fair in your case. And so you could do it in different hubs, and so you'll find your audience essentially.
that's a great idea.
So I've read that people do like charity marathons in the metaverse. Would they be able to like run through each hub? I'm just throwing it out, just wondering, like, how would that
No,
work?
I'm even thinking. I mean, like
You'll be
the
able
March
to
of
walk
Dimes.
over our entire world, and
So they
it's
could
pretty darn
totally
big.
do
So.
that, one through the other. I think that'd be kind of neat.
So, for example, like breast cancer awareness or the March of Dimes. Say instead of for those that want to participate but they can't run, but they
they
want to
can't.
participate this way, maybe they can contribute and therefore start their own March of Dimes at Shib, the Metaverse. So that is obviously something that can be done, is what I'm assuming by what I'm hearing. If you're able to walk and transport them, why not, right?
And in your own time, yeah.
No, the only thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of those use cases will be a part of the marketplace, right? So if there is a charity organization or one that you want to, there will be hooks into that. And when you do that, you are able to give to any charity that you want.
I guess the only thing that would be hard to control is like speed for each avatar, so that who's going to
I
actually
was
win.
gonna say, I can see myself just jogging along and someone shoots by me in a jetpack, and I'm like, that's cheating.
So now I think that these are all really interesting use cases.
Definitely. I think because you guys are from LA, so are we. We do all these runs all the time. The Griffith Observatory, I love doing that one there too, down in San Diego and all.
Yeah.
And those are huge here, so I could see, this happening even down there, especially for those that don't really like to run, to be honest.
They're just moving their arms.
We can set it up so
Forward.
jetpack.
No,
Roller skates? Can we do roller skates?
Or hey, if you want to use a jetpack, you just have to pay 4 times as much to your charity as somebody who walks.
see, another use case right there. You sell the supplies too, the services.
That's awesome.
No, it's all in the tech. It's all in the tech.
So I have a question. Is there anything in the works for more fireside chats in the future? Or are we on hold right now? Because I love how you guys always get the community feedback. And I think it's such a great thing because we are building for the community. And another thing that I just want to point out too is that my favorite about all of this is that we're not going with the big brand names right now. We're in it for the community itself. And for me, I'm such a big fan of that because it's for all of us little guys who are really trying to, make a name for ourselves, build into something that we know is the future here. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's
Yeah, I would say for the community, for anyone that's listening, just continue to follow the social media groups, and we have a lot of things planned without actually giving dates, and so just stay tuned. I think you'll be happy.
So I guess because it's getting a little bit long, and I know you guys are busy, I wanted to ask one last question, and I know you kind of addressed it already, actually addressed it fully, but just as a last kind of a reminder, and especially for the intake form. If you were to receive something right now, for example, in order for you to think that this is a complete form, what do you think is important for that person to submit so that it's a complete form, it's not bouncing back and forth? I think that's a good way of, for the people that want to collaborate or build something, to have some sort of, baseline as to what they need to submit.
So I would say on the business level, what the business use case is. What are you doing and why? And then for the technical level, how do you plan to achieve that? And also, how does it benefit the community and Shib? What are those pillars? I think, on the technical side, Sherry can talk about that, but I really think that a well thought out plan. Don't just send me a two sentences on, I want to sell makeup in the metaverse. Okay, what does that mean exactly? Like, do you have the right? There's so many questions that need to be asked. So really think about a well thought out plan. As if you were doing a business plan in real life.
Right. And I think that's a really good strategy for any business, right? You have to think through the processes, the steps, and really, getting it on paper, getting on digital, Word doc, whatever, what are the steps? What do I need? What, how am I going to market? How am I going to get the products? All of those various things. Like, do you have the skill set to build out with the tools, or are you going to need assistance? I think just ask yourself those questions and put them in the intake form in a way that gives us as much information as possible, both from a business perspective and from a technical perspective. So if we find that, 99% of the people need a more advanced tool set or additional resources, then we can put a little more focus on those areas earlier than later. We can kind of adjust our strategies.
So this serves as a a two-focus kind of approach, because by people submitting, or putting their ideas into the intake form, that also allows for you guys to also implement what kind of tools are necessary to build the metaverse and to support the communities. That's smart. I mean, that's absolutely amazing.
Well, and I just want to say something. We are very transparent. As you see, we are willing to talk. We are willing to be a part of the community. We are willing to take the crap from the community when we do something wrong. I mean, this is a very fluid back and forth team. The people that are not shy know how to reach us, right? And we probably respond to them. This is why we've been having the fireside chats, going into spaces, really trying to get to know the community, because ultimately, if we're not building what the community wants, there's no point in it. And to be as transparent as we possibly can with the community, because ultimately we want you all to achieve success inside the metaverse as well. Or the metaverse is not worth it, right? It's a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of build out. This is an ongoing project for years. Even if we were to release the metaverse in 6 months, even if there was something to release, it's going to continuously evolve. And so this is not just this, okay, we're going to try this and do this. This is like, it's going to evolve over years in time.
That makes sense.
One of the best things I always got as a takeaway during those firesides was getting the ideas of how people were going to use their land and what they wanted to do, and people just talking. And the point really of the intake form is that you shouldn't have to rely on those firesides to have your voice heard. We want to, who knows how long those will, go in between, and we don't want your idea to go stagnant just because you're waiting for the next fireside. So the intake form is going to be a vital way for us to understand. And it's funny because the members of this team are so ingrained in talking to the community all the time. And as Marcie said, for good and bad, we'll take it all, because so often, you'll have someone throw out an idea over here, and you need someone who's talking to the community to say, they don't want this. This isn't what they want. And if you know what they do and do not want, then you can build a better foundation so that if we want to jet off into this way, we can, or jet off into this way, we can. But it's a really delicate balance. You don't want to start down one road and have to undo anything. So I'm always grateful that, especially Marcie, I know you're out there. You're always talking to people out there. And it's a constant conversation every single day where we're talking, what if we did this? And Marcie's like, they want it over here. I'm like, okay, we'll do it over here.
But that's what you have to submit. Is the intake form up? Our intake form up at this point?
Not that I'm aware of yet. I've been.
Brandy, we should check on that, because it should be up by now.
It's not live just yet as far as the one we just talked about the other day, but we wanted to do it in a way that was very specific to the metaverse. So we'll work on getting that up this week.
Yeah, and the other thing is you can email us too if you have a business plan. Like, I'm not one for waiting for forms to get up and connected. I just want to see. I just want to get it done. I want to be able to meet with people. I want to be able to say, that's viable. Maybe that goes on our roadmap on phase 2. And then we start, in this way, we're building out the roadmap so that when we get to phase 1 and it's an MVP, everybody realizes what you will be able to do at that point. And then phase 2 becomes a build out there. We have to work in phases because it is very vast, and it's not like we have like infinite amount of money just dropping in our laps. Like, we, just like anything else, we have to budget our time and our money.
I mean, this is huge. I mean, who can even put a budget onto something that's ever growing? I mean, that's just impossible, you know. But
one of the things I'd like to include even in our special intake form would be anyone giving a brief description as to why they joined the Shib Army to begin with. Why are they excited about the metaverse? How did their road start? Because every time I talk to someone different, it's vast as far as the answers that I get. You know,
Yes.
Sometimes it's something as simple as seeing the billboard around the corner that Newegg now accepts Shib, and everyone's like, "What's Shib?" You know, and then all of a sudden they go down the rabbit hole of, "Oh, this is what Shib is. This is really cool."
Exactly.
And you know, I got to know better through Marcie, and then getting to know Sherry and David. Everyone has their own path, and part of that intake could just be a brief description also of why are you part of Shib Army? Like, I'm really curious about how everybody got to it. Since by the time I got to it, you guys were already 6 million strong, and I'm like, have I been living under a rock? What just happened?
A dollar. That's why.
It's exciting though. It's a fun new world that we're living in.
And see, that's why I think the Shib community loved you guys. As soon as you guys came in, it was even that more fun because they actually had more people to speak with. You know, they had now, you know, experts in certain fields that are actually available to speak to. Docs, you see them. I see you guys, they see you.
Yeah, that's always
And
a hard
that's
thing.
and that's really important in the space. You know, I understand not everyone can be docs. I get that. But you know how it is to interact with an actual person, see them, you know? And it just feels so much better than having to look at a PFP and wonder, like, how does this person look behind that picture or what?
Tell me about it. and that's the other thing. I mean, I think privacy is a very important thing that we want to be able to introduce into the metaverse. And what does those privacy statements look like? And Sherry, I know, is super involved in that build out. Personally, I sometimes feel uncomfortable when I'm talking to people and I don't know who they are. And it's kind of like this happy balance, right? Everybody says, "Oh, you know, how do you know that that's a great project?" Well, how do you know they're not going to rug you? Or how do you, I mean, for me, if someone is going to dox themselves to me, then I feel like it's pretty damn credible, right? Now, at the same time, for reasons that I may never know, someone may never want to show who their true identity is. So it's a happy balance of how do we keep each going inside the metaverse. I, for one, like to know that there's a person and one chokeable throat, right? Like doing things that I can make sure are kosher. That at the end of the day is important to me.
Absolutely.
Chokeable throat.
The kosher part.
Well, I think that's the other thing about decentralization, right? And stuff that Sherry and I are learning every single day. People need to be held accountable for what it is that they're doing and how they're, just because it's decentralization, it doesn't mean that you get to just do whatever the hell you want.
Thank you.
And I think that that's the misconception between what an organization is and what decentralization is. If you're going to take on a role in decentralization, then you need to own that role. it doesn't, and you need to do it, and you need to do it all the way through, and you need to make sure that you're doing it properly, and you're holding yourself accountable for everything that you need.
You know, you brought in one point that is one of my pet peeves. In fact, yesterday, the day before, you know, we go into spaces, we want to support the community too, you know, and for the most part, it's usually they have questions that they want to ask us. But one of the things that I hate hearing, and I can't correct it just because I know that it's not right, is when they're on Twitter spaces and they are speaking, this is Twitter, we're decentralized. This is what... No, we're not decentralized. If you're speaking...
They're like, this is
on Twitter,
we are Web3.
You are not at all Web3 at all related. In fact, that should not even come out of your mouth. But okay, I understand. Where there's still a learning
But that
curve.
shows such the misconception and the need to really educate people on what decentralization truly is. Because at the end of the day, it only works if people are held accountable
And they
and
understand.
are doing what they are supposed to be doing. And that is the problem. And that's why Sherry and I are writing a book on decentralization.
Nice. Hey, announce here.
And I'm gonna pick this up to Netflix.
Can we sell it at the bookstore? That's my only question.
Can we?
Don't worry, we'll put it in your bookstore.
Possibilities are endless.
Oh no! So look, you already kind of know a little bit of our idea. I'll share a little bit. So think of a Chuck E. Cheese mixed with a small little theater and Wellies, hopefully, because we're also working with them, all inclusive in one, but also a daycare center. But think of it for adults. You know, how many of us would like to go out on a, you know, with their significant other?
Especially if you're working remote and then you have kids and to drop your kids off there, you have your own little office space over here. Yeah, that's me every day.
So imagine you could now say you don't have a babysitter. You still have to get to work, but you can't do it at home because your kids are just, you know, one under. Never mind. I'm not gonna go there. But anyways, you know, you go to Shib's studio. We have, you know, a place where they could play. They could even learn, a place for where she can go and actually do some work while her son or daughter is somewhere over, you know, on the other side, you know, being taken care of, playing, you know, anything they want, or even watching a movie. All these services are going to be obviously, it's basically you pay for the service that you want. But this will be available also, for example, you guys want to go out and watch a movie or go out on a 4-hour, you know, down to Temecula and get plastered over wine. I don't know, something in the likes of that. Well, now you could actually bring them over to us. They could stay there. They have a place where they can eat. They're watched by professionals, being also in the medicine industry. So my background is also, I'm a physician assistant. Gastroenterology is my specialty. It would all be done in a manner where everyone is safe and that we're strictly adhering to all the standards required for that. But the idea is something in the likes of that with a small retail store where her books, you know, and also
just something small.
I don't do small. I like big. But anyways, the point is, you know, have an all-inclusive area that basically any adult can come and work, eat, lounge, even host events there, such as maybe a possible Shiba Fest or something of the likes of that, or a place where people can come in from the Shib community and know that it's actually for the Shib community, by the Shib community, and it's safe for anyone to be there. And in a strategic area here in Los Angeles, why not? Just kidding. It is my hometown.
Well, I mean, ultimately, it's no small thing to say that the possibilities are endless, right? I mean, as you even mentioned, being a physician's assistant, half my family's in the medical field, and there are surgeons learning new techniques through virtual reality, right? And if it's something that you can think of, I promise you there's a way to implement it, right? I mean, even in the early days of, you know, the .com era and bringing people into just regular, what we know today is, even those were baby steps, but by the time everyone really thought about how it could be utilized, it exploded overnight. You know, all of a sudden people were very excited that they could get email. You know, you got that one email a week and you felt so important, right? And then all of a sudden we jumped forward and it's everything. It runs our entire ecosystem, the reason any of us are here today, right? And so it's a vast, endless possibility of what people can do, but I'm eager not just to see how people look at their business side of things and if they've really thought out how they want to do their business, but then their specific questions of, I just want to figure out how to go about it. Like, tell me if you can help guide me on X, Y, and Z. And then that, again, gives us a better way of breaking down for everybody, but not keeping everyone in a cookie cutter environment.
Exactly.
You know, everyone wants to feel, just as your brand is different than this person's brand, you know, you want to make sure that you're feeling that when and it's coming through appropriately, that this is what you wanted it to look like, you know.
Before we go, I would love to talk a little bit about South by.
Yes.
And talk about why we made the decision to reveal at South by pieces of WAGMI. I think it's super important for the community to understand. While we are building this for the Shib Army, we need more users. We need more people. We need to raise awareness. So while everybody I know, and it's really crazy because when I first got involved with Shib, as I was talking to people about it, because I knew nothing about it. I absolutely had zero information about it. Did my own research, found out that my son actually we were holding a ton of Shib and I had no idea. And then I found out my best friend was also in the Shib Army, and this one was in the Shib Army. And while a lot of people are in the Shib Army, they don't know why they're in the Shib Army. They only know that they were supposed to buy this token and it was going to go to the moon and they were going to become multimillionaires. That is the extent of the information to the general public who doesn't live in a crypto world know about Shib. So one of the things that we thought would be super important would be to raise awareness of who Shib is and what it is that the Shiba Inu token and coin actually represent, right? Because we continuously say we are not just a meme, and Sherry came up with a great tagline, we're not a meme, we're a movement. And that movement is one that needs to grow leaps and bounds from where we are. 6 million is a ton of people, but really we need 100 million. And so by us going to these conferences and showing where our metaverse sits as compared to other metaverses out there, again, right now there's really no competition in metaverses. There's very few of them, and we're going to learn from each one. But by being able to go to a conference that's got 150,000 people attending this event and being able to show what WAGMI will look like in a headset and what you'll be able to do there, not only raise awareness for the metaverse, but it also raises awareness for the token itself and for the entire ecosystem of Shib. So therefore, I'm hoping over the next year we attend a lot of these different conferences to be able to show the progress of what it is we're doing. Yes. And then what it also does is it'll also get interest of brands, because I guarantee you, the guy, I think it's Sir Shibalot, who is emailing incessantly to Champion. Champion doesn't understand why he's emailing obsessively. And I think they'd be super interested to know that maybe their hoodies would do very well inside the metaverse. But we can't reach everyone just by the internet. We have to have in-person meetings and in-person conversations. So this is why part of what the initiative is for Shib the Metaverse is not only to build it the way the community wants, but it's also to be able to market it in a way where people outside the Shib community understand who we are and what we're doing.
Oh, absolutely. And you made a very important point there about sometimes you physically have to meet these companies or these people. when we were working with another collaboration that we, that we're doing. I went to go speak to Coca-Cola, and at first I sent a message. Didn't go anywhere, but because Coca-Cola is literally, 15 minutes from my house, and because my mom works right around that area, I drop her off sometimes, and I literally went to that little headquarters. Well, not little, but that headquarters there. And I went in there. So I am aggressive. I have several. I have
Should
several.
put you on my sales team.
So I've had several businesses. So I'm not the type that's shy to go into a business because hey, what's the worst that could happen? No, bye. Anyways, so I went in there and I explained what Shiba is and what we wanted to do for this festival, and they were very, very interested, particularly because I wanted one thing. I said, if you guys will sponsor us, there'll be conditions, obviously, but we would like to have a Shiba Inu commemorative, like a collection can or something, and it'll be designated for this, but future collaborations with as well and other things. Long story short, that was very positive, and the only reason why it did not continue further is because they had to tone down the festival where it's now music NFTs. If it would have been with celebrities and had more time, then this would have come in play to include even Heineken. So there are brand names out there that want to do business with this community. Sometimes there's not that many people that can actually speak to them directly, and they're not going to speak to a PFP, as you all know in business. It doesn't work that way, And so I feel like if the Shib community wants to really drive, this message along, sometimes we got to do the walk, and maybe hold some spaces specifically for the metaverse. Say we start something maybe every other week where we come in and discuss business avenues and or shortcomings. What don't you understand from the metaverse? Let's learn. Hold a space. I think we should do that actually. And watching, and we'll start doing videos. As much as I end up learning from you guys and whatever I learn on my own, I think it would be beneficial to continue having these educational, segments per se, and even Twitter spaces, because sometimes you can attract brands, that are out there just kind of fetching, honestly, because they're also looking for the next big thing. And so I think that if we put ourselves out there a little bit more, speak to the community, be open about all that, then we could end up with a lot more collaborations, a lot more success with Shib.
Well, and I also think that you should use what you were trying to do with Shiba Fest or whatever it was called, and now tap that into the metaverse. So Coke now understands that there is a specific place where the Shib Army will be on a daily basis for them to get the eyeballs so that they can sell Coke and also their NFTs in a space where there's actually people going to.
So that's what actually drove it. I'll be honest, I capped it with that. So you went there exactly. So the end reward to this, I guess, or what made them think like, okay, even if it's just something, that's just starting that you maybe don't know what's going to happen 1 year or two, or maybe it's the next big thing. They take these type of gambles. So I think that's the reason why as soon as I mentioned the metaverse and what's being built and all the things that go along with the ecosystem, they were like, okay, well, we just need an actual draft, that goes to the marketing team and your attorney, all that kind of stuff. But anyways, that they're willing to work, they're willing.
They are.
But they need to speak to someone. And someone needs to be as clear as this, or even go in there like traditional businesses sometimes used to do back in the days. Hey, let's have dinner, lunch, or something in a meeting and get things done that way. Not always, but sometimes it works. So I'll leave it at that. But thank you guys. Unless you have one more question or anything.
No,
I know they're busy.
If there's anything else that you guys would like to add, please, a message to the Shib Army, something.
And you guys are always welcome to do something like this. We'll always keep it informative. This is going to be a channel for the Shib Army where any questions or things that they need to learn, it may not even be about news. Because honestly, I really don't care too much about news. I like more updates or educational things. You guys want to know? Let us know. Thank you.
Thank you. I would say the only thing I would cap off really here with is a reminder that, that no one should be worried about reaching out to us directly if they have a question, or if, in the case of you guys here, requesting to talk to us and things like that. We want to be an open book. We may all be very busy, but we're busy implementing what everybody is hoping to get from this. So I would just reiterate that we're not untouchable here. I mean, we're very much reachable. If it via Discord, Twitter message, anything like that. I will say it's harder to respond to a comment section on Twitter than people who just message me directly personally, and it's a lot easier for me to have a dialogue if it's not, on a stream of 50 different comments, but
No, yeah,
that's what I would say.
yeah, we've been really happy because the communication has been very clear, very good. So, Shib Army, you got your ideas? Send them out. They are ready and eager to work on them.
Yes, definitely.
Well,
It was great meeting you guys in person. I appreciate you reaching out and wanting to have this conversation. I look forward to seeing all of the really interesting ideas that are going to come across our desk. Now's the time to do it as we're building. Now is the time to reach out. Now is the time to really start thinking about what you want to do in the metaverse. Because when we issue the MVP, we really want to be able to have some awesome use cases. And don't be discouraged. If you're not picked in the first round, maybe it'll be the second or the third round. Again, this thing is an ongoing scenario.
perfect.
And actually, speaking of ongoing, we all wanted to say thank you to the members of the community that submitted their videos. We decided to keep that open since, again, we are going to continue to put out new reveals and content, and it's really all thanks to the community that this is even happening. So we are keeping that open. We ask that you continue
good.
to put in your community videos there. It's amazing seeing actually everybody's submissions. Everyone is so creative. Their heart is just so strong when it comes to Shib, and it really comes across in the videos. So thank you.
Absolutely. We actually missed ours, so it'll actually be a good
It's
time.
not too late. It's not too late. I was waiting to see the video come through for me.
Yes,
You
I
know,
know.
If you only knew the last 2 weeks how busy
Not
and
even
sad.
2 weeks.
Well, yeah, it's been like, yeah.
Well, it's still okay. I look forward to seeing it.
Most definitely. And we
All
have
right,
some,
guys, I've got to jump.
Of course.
It was really awesome meeting you.
Thank you all.
And maybe if you guys come up to LA at some point, we can get coffee and sit down. Or when I go down to the Inland Empire, maybe that's something that we can do. But I would love to be able to meet you in person.
That'd be
okay.
fantastic.
At the Cheech.
Okay. Thank you, everybody,
Just
so
kidding.
much for being here with us today here on Studio
Definitely.
Shib. Please make sure to like and subscribe.